The Jewish people respond to death with 3 words of blessing. In English, the words mean, "Praised be the judge of truth." Let us begin our service with the wisdom of our tradition. Please repeat these words of blessing after me. Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. Praised is the judge of truth. Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. Adonai has given and Adonai has taken. Praise be the name of Adonai. Everything is but a moment. Lakol zman ve'et lakol chayfetz tachat hashamayim. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Eit laledet ve'et lamut. A time to be born and a time to die. Death complements birth. They form the bookends of life. Resting between them is a life filled with an abundance of things to see, to feel, to touch, to taste, to understand, to do. Eit latat ve'eit la'akor natua. There is a time to plant, envisioning a future, and a time to harvest, seeing one's dreams fulfilled. Eit laharog ve'eit lirpo. There is a time to kill, weeding a garden, breaking a fall, stopping aggression, completing a task, closing a chapter, and a time to heal, binding a wound, blotting a tear, forgiving a mistake, returning home. Eit lifrots ve'eit livnot. There is a time to break down the walls that confine us, setting us free, and a time to build the bridges that connect us, binding us together. Eit lifkot ve'eit lischok. There is a time to weep and a time to laugh, and sometimes weeping and laughing arrive as one, when memory brings joy and absence sorrow. Eit sephod ve'eit rekod. There is a time to mourn, marching to the solemn beat of a funeral procession, and a time to dance, turning and spinning at a wedding. Eit lahashlich avanim ve'eit knos avanim. There is a time to cast away stones, clearing a field for planting, and a time to gather stones together, building a house or covering a grave. Eit lachavok ve'eit lirchok mechabek. There is a time to hold a loved one tightly, never wanting to let go, and a time to release one's embrace and set one's dear one free. Eit levakesh ve'eit la'abed. There is a time to seek, looking for answers, chasing a goal, pursuing ambition, and a time to lose, accepting failure, forgiving wrongs, moving on. Eit lishmor ve'eit lahashlich. There is a time to keep as we build our lives and fill our homes, and a time to cast away as we let go of that which holds us back. Eit likroa ve'eit litpor. There is a time to rend, tearing our garments in grief, and a time to sew, mending them again, but the seam will always remain. Eit lachashot ve'eit ledaber. There is a time to keep silence, listening to our hearts, and a time to speak, sharing our thoughts with others. Eit le'ehov ve'eit lisno. There is a time to love, bringing close those who enrich our lives, and a time to hate, distancing ourselves from those who diminish us. Eit milchama ve'eit shalom. There is a time of strife, because no life is without struggle, and a time of peace. When all is done, when all is complete, when our days are full, when the story is told, when we are all together, when the circle is whole. Havel Havalim Amar Kohelet, Havel havalim hakol havel. Moment upon moment, everything is but for a moment, says Kohelet, the preacher. So let us cherish this moment, each moment, and all the moments we shared and share. Death has taken Cheryl Ratner, Sima Bela bat Eliezer Virachel. A longtime member of Congregation Agudat Achim, Cheryl is mourned by our entire community, by her daughters, Ezraella and Eliza, her grandchildren, Chase, Bentley, Isabella, and Lillian, by her cousin, Rachel, and the rest of her family, by her friend, Jeff, among many wonderful friends. I'd like to invite Eliza and Ezraella to share some words of memory.
First, I would like to thank everyone for coming to honor the memory of my mom. The amount of love and support our family has received has truly been a comfort during this difficult time. As most of you know, my sister and I were adopted as infants, and our parents were very open with us about that from the beginning. My mom would buy us books about adoption and would always answer any questions that we had honestly. She made sure that we knew that even though we did not come from them, we were loved just as much as if we had. She always used to tell us that she was meant to be our mother, and I believe with all my heart that she was. She showed her endless love for us in everything that she did. She always encouraged us to do our best and helped us to feel more confident in every aspect of our lives. I remember in 7th grade, I was so nervous to try out for my school's production of Fiddler on the Roof. I was so nervous that I almost didn't go to the audition. I was specifically nervous about the singing parts because I didn't feel like I was good enough. The night before auditions, I thought I had made up my mind that I wasn't going. But then my mom came into my room and she started playing one of the songs from the play, and she started to sing and even made up her own dance moves. Eventually, I joined in and started to do the same. She played the song over and over, and at some point, she had stopped singing along, and it was just me. She was beaming and grinning from ear to ear, just watching me, and in that moment, I felt so confident and ready for my audition. I went to the audition the next day, and I ended up getting the part that I had wanted so badly. I went home and told her the news, and she just said, "I never doubted you." Her belief in me made me believe in myself. My mom and I had always had a close relationship, but as I reached my adult years, our relationship turned into a friendship. I can honestly say that my mom was my best friend in the entire world. We truly enjoyed each other's company and spent a great deal of time together. We would go on shopping trips, watch our favorite shows and movies together, cook our favorite meals, and go to the green market almost every Sunday. Sometimes we would just get in the car and drive without a destination. We were able to be free spirits together, and I will always cherish the wonderful memories that we made with each other. The amount of love that my sister and I received from my mom was nothing compared to the love my mother had for our children. She formed a bond with each one and devoted so much time to being a bubby. She was there for almost every important milestone in their lives, from first steps to first words, and was so proud of anything that they accomplished. She was always available to spend time with them and never turned down an opportunity for bubby time. Our children loved her just as much as she did them. They will always remember their bubby and the wonderful times that they shared with her. I would like to end with a poem because my mom, being an English major, had a special place in her heart for poetry and creative writing. This poem is called Farewell, Dear Mother. Somewhere in my heart, beneath all my grief and pain, is a smile that I still wear at the sound of your dear name. The precious word is mother. She was my world, you see. But now my heart is breaking because she's no longer here with me. God chose her for his angel to watch me from above, to guide me and advise me and know that I'm still loved. The day she had to leave me, when her life on earth was through, God had better plans for her. For this I surely knew. When I think of her kind heart and all those loving years, my memories surround me and I can't hold back the tears. She truly was my best friend, someone I could confide in. She always had a tender touch and a warm, gentle grin. I want to thank you, Mother, for teaching me so well. And though the time has come that I must bid you this farewell, I'll remember all you've taught me, and I'll make you proud, you'll see. Thank you, my dear Mother, for all the love you've showed me. Although you've left this earth and now you've taken flight, I know that you are here with me each morning, noon, and night. My mom was my everything, and I will miss her dearly.
Excuse me. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all so much for being here. There is so much I want to say, but there are no words I could put on paper to explain the loss and grief we are all feeling right now. I'd like to start with what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my family. We are a small but tight group, and they have been an incredible source of strength in the past few days and did the real work to make this service happen, so thank you. I'm also grateful that this room is filled with so many people who knew and cared for my mom. Seeing the tremendous love and support here for my mother and my family is humbling and inspiring. And thank you for taking the time today to be here. Mom, you would always tell Eliza and I that even though we didn't come from your womb, we came from your heart. You would say we were born to be your daughters and you were meant to be our mother. Truer words have never been spoken. There are no words I can speak to explain our beautiful relationship. Anything I try to say feels like less than what we had. Every person gets a different amount of time in this life with their mothers, just like everyone has an entirely different relationship with them. My time with my mother got cut short, and I didn't get to have her as long as I would have liked. My mother was my everything. She was my best friend, my better half, and my confidant. I lost way more than just my mother when she died. I lost all of these things wrapped into one. There are so many things that I hope she knows. Mom, I miss you more than words can explain. I miss your smile, I miss your laugh, and I miss your hugs. I even miss the way you would yell at me for not making my bed the way you taught me. There are so many things in my life that will never be the same without you. Thank you for being the best mom. Thank you for giving me the chance to have the best mom in the world. Thank you for teaching me so much. Thank you for never letting me slack on becoming the person you knew I was capable of. Thank you for teaching me not to settle for less than what I have in my past. You always wanted more for me, and you always saw my potential, and you believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. Thank you for always being my #1 fan. As I get older, I see why you taught me so many of the things you did. Losing you has taught me the meaning of life and what real love really is. They say a mother and daughter relationship is one of the strongest in the world. Losing that relationship taught me how capable I was of loving, losing, and feeling pain. You taught me the meaning of love and loved me unconditionally no matter what. You took so much pride in me and Eliza and all of the grandchildren. We would always recite the book, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. And even though you aren't physically here anymore, I will always be your baby. Both of us will. No matter where life takes me, I will take a part of you with me always. I will continue to live every day for you. I will be the best version of me. I will make you proud with every choice, every decision, and every step I take for the rest of my life will honor you. Life without you is hard, and it probably always will be, but I will live this life for you, Mommy. I remember all those times I never wanted to be like you. I denied that I would ever grow up to be just like my mother. And now my goal is to adopt your loving ways and to be the wonderful mother to my children that you were to me and Melissa. I try to think of reasons why I didn't check in with you when I was supposed to. I was too busy doing teenager things. I was embarrassed to be checking in with my mommy in front of my friends as a youth. I was too adult to have to be checking in. And I realize now that they were all poor justifications. And God, how I wish I could check in with you right now. But heaven doesn't have phones or text messages. Today I celebrate your strength, elegance, and wisdom, and your ability to selflessly mother everyone. I celebrate all the beautiful times we've experienced and the beautiful times I'll continue to have in my infinite imagination. I celebrate your life today. You may be gone, but all that love remains. It warms and comforts, and its foundation is as real as ever. My beautiful mother, today and every single day from now on, your soul is free and happy. Thank you for being my mother. I wouldn't have had it any other way. Thank you for being my rock and my pillar of strength. I know I didn't say this enough when you were here with me, but I love you, Mommy. I always have and always will, and we all miss you so much, and I'll see you again soon. That's it. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Jeff Kimmer, Cheryl's really good friend, to share some words of memory.
Cheryl was can you hear me? Cheryl was a vibrant human being, and looking out at the audience, I would say she wishes she could be here, because this was her venue. She would love to just socialize with anybody. She always said that her favorite place to be was in a room full of strangers. She didn't care, she would talk to anybody. And we became friends after both of us retired from the State Department of Health, and she would say once in a while, I took the place of her brother Erwin, who died fairly young. And we fought like brothers and sisters, and she was always kind. She didn't have any malice in her. And she was a cockeyed optimist. And sometimes she would say things that I would give her a look, and she was able to laugh at herself about her optimism. You know, it wasn't based in reality, but it was there. She's going to be missed by many. I think as time goes by, I'm going to miss her more and more as the seasons pass, and she's not there. She loved her children, and she especially loved her grandchildren. She used to say to me, you don't know what it's like. I don't have any grandchildren. She would say, you don't know what it's like. The love that she had for her grandchildren was so strong she couldn't describe it. It's a sad day, and keep her in your thoughts. Thank you.
Cheryl's cousin, Rachel Cohen, is also going to share some words of memory.
Oh, hello, family and friends. My cousin Cheryl and I grew up on opposite sides of the country, so while I'd met her at weddings and such, we didn't really get to know each other until my family and I moved here 24 years ago. She was the only person we knew in the Capital District, and she welcomed me, my husband Randy, and our son into her home and family immediately. She and her family became our local mishpacha, our local family. Ezraella was 5 and Eliza was 3. And when they met our 7-year-old son, Cheryl had to explain that his name was not Jeremy, but Jeremy. Jeremy. Our two families celebrated holidays together, went to craft fairs and synagogue events and concerts with our kids. We went to that Fiddler on the Roof production that Eliza performed in so beautifully. And we shared our children's B'nai Mitzvah. If I called Cheryl up on the weekend to go for a hike in the woods, well, she wasn't interested. But she was always up for shopping or going out to lunch. In those earlier years, she was working as a medical conduct investigator, and she was busy with her children, with her charitable organizations, and with her mother and stepfather. But we did a lot of shopping and a lot of gabbing. We talked about our work, our social lives, our families, our friends, politics, you name it. We talked on the phone all the time. In more recent years, Cheryl talked about how wonderful, bright, and adorable her grandchildren are. Last year, I took her shopping for shoes to wear to Elisa's wedding. And early this year, when Cheryl's health started to get worrisome, I called her on the phone every day for several months. Between talking, texting, and taking photos, Cheryl's phone was in constant use. Everyone here knows that Cheryl was just about the friendliest, most outgoing person you could meet. If you look up extrovert in the dictionary, there's her picture. She told me that her embarrassed children used to ask her, "Mommy, why do you always have to talk to strangers?" To which she said, "A stranger is just someone you haven't met yet." I think that's kind of Cheryl's motto. That's how she felt about everyone. She called me up once for a girls' night out. She said, "There's this costume jewelry company," I don't remember the name of it, "sponsoring a huge party at the Glenn Sanders mansion. It's open to the public, with free admission, food, music, and a free bracelet for every woman who comes. Want to go?" I said, "Cheryl, that's just going to be a huge, noisy room crammed full of strangers." She said, "Exactly." Cheryl learned the names of everyone she dealt with, and she remembered them, from bank tellers to receptionists at her doctor's offices to the person at the Sprint call center trying to sort out her bill. She loved parties, weddings, dancing, and any kind of socializing. And as Jeff was saying, she always saw the best in people, and she was full of optimism about others. And everywhere she went in Niskayuna, everyone knew her. Cheryl was also thoughtful and reflective. She enjoyed literature and art and wrote poetry. And she made a point of being kind to everyone. She cared about social justice, and she was frequently moved to help disaster victims, animals, children in foster care, the downtrodden and the oppressed. She was an ethical vegetarian for more than 20 years, and more recently a vegan. After a major medical procedure to remove a blood clot that caused her big stroke in March, she went to a rehab facility, and the TV in her room was tuned to breaking news of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Cheryl immediately wanted to use her Venmo account to donate money for the refugees. She was always eager to help when there was a need. We all enjoyed Cheryl's sense of humor. And I want to tell you a couple of recent Cheryl stories. The background of this first story is not at all funny. After that stroke in March, the aides at her first rehab facility unfortunately dropped her and broke her hip, and Cheryl had to go to the hospital for surgery. When she came out of the anesthesia and got her own room, I came in to visit her. A male nurse walked in, and Cheryl said, "Rachel, this is my nurse Chad," or whatever his name was, "who is so attentive as well as handsome. Chad, this is my cousin Rachel." And Chad said, "Well, Cheryl, Sarah here is going to take over for me now." Cheryl said, "Oh, Chad, you're leaving?" sounding very concerned. "Yeah, my shift is over," he said. And the female nurse said, "But don't worry, Cheryl. I'll be here with you all night." Cheryl said, "Well, Sarah, I appreciate that, but sorry, I don't swing that way." Whatever they were expecting from a woman who had had a stroke 2 weeks before and had just come out of general anesthesia, that was not it. The two nurses just busted up. There's another story I've told to some of you already. I'm a philosophy professor. A few weeks ago, I was visiting Cheryl, and I told her I just finished grading a set of midterms. And she said, "What's the course about?" And I said, "Well, this part was about self-deception." She looked me in the eye and she said, "I could teach that course." If you knew Cheryl well, you know there was truth in that joke. Then just last week, I told her, "We're done with that topic, so what are you discussing now?" And I told her, "Acting against our own better judgment." She looked me in the eye and said, "I could teach that course too." Cheryl was such a live wire, such a vibrant presence. She was so confident about who she was and what she stood for, so completely unapologetic and authentic. She would say, I'm a loud Jewish woman from Brooklyn. That's just who I am. She could be stubborn and imprudent in ways that harmed her and frustrated family and friends who tried to lead her to wiser decisions. But we all knew she had a huge, warm heart. It's very hard to believe that this exuberant, funny, loving person is gone. She leaves a huge hole in the world. I loved her a lot, and I'm going to miss her so much.
Cheryl was my neighbor. We lived right around the corner. And as you've heard, she was exactly that kind of neighbor that you would expect. She warmly welcomed us when we first arrived, walked over with a gift, even though we didn't know anybody in town. And she said, I'm your neighbor just around the corner. You walk by on your way to synagogue every time, and we'll see you. And we did. And we did. And then the pandemic started, and Cheryl's health declined, and she was very anxious and worried about the pandemic, and we saw her less, but we saw her outside all the time. And we saw her watching her grandchildren and biking in the neighborhood with Chase, and we were outside all the time because there was nothing else to do, and we just had Ellie at the time, and Ellie definitely looked up to Chase, like big older kid on the block. And I just have so many memories of Cheryl's warmth and her desire to check in with me and to make sure that everything was okay, and long conversations that we had when she needed to cut certain things out of her diet. She called me to ask what she should do for Passover because she wasn't sure what she should eat. And I gave her my best rabbinic advice. I said, you should eat kitniot. You should expand the foods that you're willing to eat, even though you come from the Ashkenazi Jewish tradition. The conservative movement allows for health reasons to take on the Sephardi custom of eating rice on Passover. And she said to me, Rabbi, I just can't. It's like eating pasta on Passover. How can you tell me to do that? Cheryl was so full of love. She was full of life. Cheryl was timimah. It's a complicated word to translate, but it's a divine attribute. And it means perfect, but it also means innocent, and it also means like simple. It means full-hearted. We're in this section of the Torah where two of our main characters get called Tamim, both Noah, whose Torah portion was last week, who was referred to as Ish Tamim Haya B'Doratav. He was a Tamim person in his generation. Righteous, perfect, well-meaning, innocent. And of course, Abraham is also referred to as Tamim, which is this coming week's Torah portion. And Cheryl was deeply committed to her Jewish life and to the Jewish life of her family. She was committed to this synagogue and to the broader Jewish community of the Capital Region. I'm going to read a poem by Rabbi Karen Kedar called Learning from Death. The true worth of a life is the story it has left behind. Tell it well. Search for meaning and understanding. Search for the truth. Did he teach you about love? Did she personify genius or sensitivity? Did his life warn you of the danger of bitterness and anger? As I stand and behold the eyes of those who mourn, I realize that the only difference between people in this world is not their wealth, fame, or success. The only difference is those who had love in their life and those who did not. Cheryl was full of love. Cheryl was full of life. Cheryl embodied the divine attribute of being Timimah, and Cheryl was deeply committed to her Jewish life and that of her family. When I say Cheryl was full of love, I mean that for Cheryl, no one was a stranger. She wanted to learn everybody's life story, and she wanted to share her own life story with you. She never got over the death of her mom. They were very close. I think she spoke of her mom in similar ways to the way her children just spoke of her just now that we all heard. They talked on the phone several times a day. And when she died, it was really, really hard for her. She had lost her father pretty young to a heart attack, and she had lost her brother. And she was filled with the love of the people she had in her life, knowing of the power of loss. She loved her children and her grandchildren. She was there for all of the births, and she took care of the kids so that her children could go back to work and could support themselves and do their own thing. She was incredibly generous to the needs of her daughters. Cheryl was full of life. She was gregarious. She was a force of nature, animated. She was such a funny person. She was very social, loved putting a smile on people's faces. Jeff shared some indiscreet or bawdy things that she used to say that made him a little uncomfortable, but which were just part of who she was. Cheryl wasn't self-conscious in the way she spoke or in her way of dressing. She loved sparkling and bright colors. Her bedroom was bright orange. She was confident and self-assured, and she loved dancing. She loved parties. She loved to go out with her friends. Friday night with the girls, music. Cheryl was Timimah. She had a certain innocence about her. For example, her family said to me that she didn't really learn to understand sarcasm until maybe 2 years ago. She just couldn't imagine that people would say things that they didn't mean. She was truthful and warm. When you interacted with her, what you saw was what you got. There was no deception. She loved animals, and she cared about the environment. She worried about the political situation and about the future and about the world that her kids were being brought up into. And she worried about anyone that she didn't hear from for a little while, and she would reach back out. She was incredibly active on social media and on Facebook, and unfiltered. And And she shared so much of her life story on Facebook, of her inner life and the events of her life, that when her family was working to write her obituary this week, they were able to find almost everything just written there on the Facebook page, as if Cheryl had written her own obituary in advance. Cheryl was deeply committed to her Jewish life and to the Jewish life of her family. She cared so much for the synagogue. She volunteered at the Carrot Festival, where she would MC the bands, and she helped out in the gift shop. She tried to follow Jewish traditions in the best way that she could. And she sent her daughters to day school to get a Jewish education. She was a very kind and loving human being who made time for other people in her life. Her house was a safe haven for her daughter's friends, a place where they could come even if they were having a difficult time at home, where she could give meals and love and advice. She loved giving advice. I asked her family what they'd miss most about Cheryl, and they shared with me that they would miss being able to talk to her, her companionship, her jokes, the way she had of making time go faster when she was there, the fact that she interacted with the world without judgment, without disappointment, her unconditional acceptance and love. And Cheryl had so much gratitude, which she expressed liberally and shared with everybody that she interacted with. Cheryl will be deeply missed. Yehi Zichra Baruch, may her memory bring all of us blessing. Did you want to play a song?
Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. I walked out this morning and I wrote down this song. I just can't remember who to send it to. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again.
Please rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Uteorim, Kezoar Harakia Masirim, En Nishmat, Sima Bela Bat Eliezer V'Rachel Shalcha Le'olama, Began Eden Tehei Menuchata, Ana Ba'al Rachamim, Hasdireha B'Seiter Knafecha L'Olamim, Utzror B'Tzor HaChaim En Nishmata, Adonai Unachalata, V'Tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava, V'Nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of Cheryl Ratner, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Our God and God of our ancestors, 1,000 years in your sight are as a passing day, an hour of night. The generations come and go while you endure forever. We are always in your hand, Adonai, in death as in life. Help us who mourn the loss of Cheryl to look beyond this moment, to realize that death cannot destroy the bonds of your everlasting love. Sustain us with the knowledge afforded by faith that you will not allow us to suffer oblivion. For you, Eternal One, have taught us the way of life. Through you we gain eternity, and let us say, Amen. Interment will immediately follow at the Agudat Achim Cemetery in Rotterdam, and all are invited to return here after the burial for the beginning of the Shiva meal. Shiva will be this evening on Zoom at 7:15 p.m. in the Congregation Agudat Achim Minyan Zoom room, and tomorrow evening in person at the home of Brenda Larkin from 6 to 8 p.m. with the service at 7:15 p.m. And there will also be a service in person on Sunday night at the home of Rachel Cohen, also from 6 to 8 p.m. And the addresses are available in the email that we sent out, and also you can ask and we'll tell you. A Psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. Giving me repose in green meadows, leading me beside the still waters to revive my spirit. Guiding